Greetings once again from Victoria. My name is Garnet Schulhauser, and I'm the author of 4 books in the spiritual metaphysical genre: Dancing on a Stamp, Dancing Forever with Spirit, Dance of Heavenly Bliss, and Dance of Eternal Rapture. All these books deal with my dialogue and subsequent astral travels with my spirit guide, Albert. You can obtain more information about these books on my website, which is garnetschulhauser.com. I am also a level 2 QHHT practitioner, and QHHT stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, which is a hypnosis technique developed by Dolores Cannon, who is also the founder of my publishing company, Ozark Mountain Publishing. Today is June 17th, 2020, and we are still in the midst of a coronavirus pandemic, although many places are beginning to open up gradually, as is ours, and I have been able to resume my QHHT sessions, which have been basically on hold for the past 3 months. Before we get into today's serious topic, which is a recounting of a past life that one of my clients recently had, I'd like to tell you a funny story I heard recently. It seems that one night there was a knock at the door, and Mr. Wilkins opened the door just one day after he lost his wife scuba diving in the ocean. At the door were 2 grim-faced police officers. Mr. Wilkins says, "Yes, what can I do for you?" And the police officer said, "We have some information for you about your wife." Well, Mr. Wilkins said, "Well, hurry, tell me, what do you know?" The policeman says, "Well, we have bad news, we have some pretty good news, and we have some really great news. Which one do you want to hear first?" So Mr. Wilkins said, "Well, tell me the bad news." So the policeman said, "This morning we pulled your wife's body out of San Francisco Bay." "Oh no," said Mr. Wilkins. His worst fears were confirmed. Then he remembered what the policeman said, and so he asked, "So what is the pretty good news?" And the policeman said, "Well, when we pulled her body out of the bay, we found 2 5-pound lobsters and at least a dozen good-sized Dungeness crabs on her body." Mr. Wilkins didn't quite understand what this was all about, so he said, "Well, what's the really good news?" And the policeman smiled and said, "Well, tomorrow morning we're going to pull her body out again." Well, that was a bit of gruesome humor for today, and I can understand the policeman's point of view because I really love lobster and crab myself. In any event, time to move on to the more serious topic of today, which is to deal with a past life regression one of my QHHT clients had, which was really quite fascinating. Now, as many of you know, a QHHT trance involves 2 parts. In the first part, the client is taken back to one or more past lives, or they could be parallel lives or future lives. They could be lives on planet Earth, or it could be a life on another planet. And then the second part is the contact with the client's higher self to get the answers to the questions that they bring with them to the sessions. So in this case, I'm going to relay a very interesting past life that one of my clients had, as I mentioned. Now you should know that for most people, when they get taken back to a past life, it's nothing unusual. A lot of people just sort of like, they're born, they go to school, they grow up, they get married, they have kids, their kids get married, the kids have children, they get old, and then they die. And there's nothing unusual about that, because most life seems to follow that pattern without anything really exciting or unusual happening. But there is the odd occasion when a client comes to a past life which is really different, extraordinary, and in those kinds of situations I really perk up my ears, because it's really good to have something different in the past lives. And so today I'm going to tell you about one of my clients who, a lady who went into a very deep trance, and when she came off the cloud, she found herself in a beautiful, lush rainforest. The rainforest was filled with towering trees and verdant shrubs and a whole network of very colorful wildflowers. It was a very beautiful place indeed. She described herself as a tiny humanoid with wings sprouting from her shoulders. She was wearing a sheer gossamer frock adorned with tiny blue gemstones and white lace. My client noted that she looked very much like the depictions of fairies that she had seen in textbooks and magazines when she went to school. She was unable to say whether this past life was a life on Earth or on some other planet. As the scenes of her past life regression advanced, she found herself hovering over a meadow in the forest, a very lush green meadow, and she could hover there because her little wings were flapping rapidly in a figure-8 fashion, much like the hummingbirds on Earth. But she dropped down into the meadow when she noticed a baby bunny and a fawn approaching the meadow from the edge of the forest. As soon as they noticed my client, they scurried over to her, reveling in her warm embrace. It was evident that these creatures were her friends and that she basked in the glory of the love and warmth they were showering on her. Soon they were joined in the meadow by a bear cub and a chipmunk, who licked her cheeks with great affection as she stroked their fur, again with much affection and love. She sensed that she was a protector of these creatures, that her job was to watch over them and see that no harm came to them. In her right hand she held a shiny silver wand, which she said had magical properties that she could use to manipulate matter to help her protect the creatures of the forest. At this point, she jumped forward to an important day in the life that she was viewing, a day when something important was happening, and when she got there, she found that she was hovering above the trees near the edge of the forest. In the distance, she could see a group of humanoids approaching the forest. They were much bigger than her, and they very much resembled humans on Earth. As she watched, she was horrified when she realized that they were shooting arrows at her. So she quickly whipped out her wand and put a protective shield around herself so that the arrows bounced off harmlessly. But this didn't stop the marauders. When they got tired of bouncing their arrows off of her shield, they started shooting arrows at any creature in the forest that they came upon. My client was horrified, so she quickly went into operation and put a protective shield around as many of the little creatures as she could. But there were too many marauders, too many arrows flying through the air, and she could not save them all. So a number of her creatures were killed with these arrows, and she was heartbroken, and she still to this day can't understand why these humanoids were killing her friends in the forest. With tears streaming down her cheeks, my client came out of trance, and when we did the post-trance interview, she said that she knew why her higher self had shown her that life. It was because she and her husband had been avid sports hunters in her current life, and she realized now that her higher self wanted her to see how bad that was to be killing animals for sport, and as a result, she said she would vow to never again hunt animals for sport. She acknowledged that animals have their own place in the universe and that they should be allowed to live out their lives without undue influence from humans. There's a lesson in this story for all of us. We have to strive to appreciate that the creatures who share our planet have their own place in the universe. They have the right to live on our planet, and they have the right to have us show them the dignity and respect that they deserve. In any event, that's all for now, folks. Enjoy your journey, and remember to keep on dancing.